They came from a pale blue world, heavy with salt and grief. Their weapons spoke in thunder, and their ships eclipsed stars. The old human war fleet, what some called the Fire Tide, burned across 1,000 systems, each a funeral pyre for tyranny. But they are gone now, all gone. Ashes don't speak, and fire never returns from cold. Archive corrupted. End transmission. The snow whispered across the shattered ruins of Outpost Theta 9 on Nix 5, a world so cold it could crack steel like glass. Above, the sky spun in its eternal gray numbness. Somewhere far overhead, Zarek Dominion drones prowled, lazy in their patrols, confident in the silence this planet promised. They had reason to be. The Treaty of Malvaren was a century old. To the Zarek and the rest of the galactic core, humans were finished. Their last embers snuffed after the Earth evacuation, their fleets scattered to radiation storms and entropy. Their name now belonged to campfire tales and drunken war stories. To the young, humans were little more than monsters under the bed. Ancient ghosts, but ghosts had teeth. Ashvale exhaled slowly, her breath invisible in the hyper-cooled rebreather mask beneath her snow-flecked hood. She was a ghost of a ghost, buried in white beneath the collapsed shell of a research satellite dish, her long-barreled rail silencer balanced on a bed of frosted debris. Her scope hummed in the dark, tracking heat signatures in the distant ridgeline. 2 minutes until contact. A Zarek convoy crawled over the icy pass, 6 riders on hovering stalk beasts, fanning around a central armored skiff. Inside was Commander Thirval, Dominion fleet strategist, and inside his skull were encrypted fleet movement codes, rendezvous coordinates, and new blockade deployments. She only needed one shot. She adjusted the wind compensator manually. She didn't trust automatic calibration out here. Machines froze. Flesh adapted, just like her people had. Her name was never Ashvale, not at birth. That name was given to her on the Ararat Ark, the main hull of a refugee Terran sleeper fleet lost, somewhere past the black veins of the outer spiral. She had no memory of Earth, only the training domes, the zero-G rifle drills, the silent instruction of ghost-faced mentors who taught her to shoot between heartbeats, to breathe like a glacier, to become smoke, shadow, silence. Ashvale had fought on 9 worlds before her 16th cycle. Sniper, infiltrator, unconfirmed asset, no official name, no footprint. Earth died, but her children? Her children learned patience. Through the scope, the commander's face came into view, a brutal slice of mandibles, bone plates, and regal arrogance. The Zarek wore trophies of extinct species as honor tokens on their armor. She recognized a Terran helmet fragment etched into the creature's pauldron. A heartbeat passed. Another. She could hear the soft click of his encrypted communicator activating. She could almost hear the future he was about to secure. More Dominion fleets, more blockades, more crushed resistance cells. She blinked once, and thought of her mother's arms tightening around her as the evacuation sirens howled. Of the hunger on the Ararat, of firelight inside metal hulls, of her father's broken dog tags still worn around her neck. The galaxy believed they were ash, but ash remembers the shape of fire. The shot hummed without echo. The slug cut through cryo-wind and arrogance alike, striking Commander Thirval just below the throat node. A perfect pulse-line kill. No scream. No warning. His body tumbled sideways, already dead. For 3 seconds no one moved. Then the skiff's lights flared red. The stalk beasts shrieked in terror. The convoy scattered. Panic, pure and unscripted, flashed across alien visors. They knew. Somehow they knew. Not insurgents. Human. Somewhere far above, relay satellites pinged to life. Alarms buzzed in Dominion command centers. The outpost wasn't unimportant anymore. Nix V was no longer quiet. Ashvale disassembled the rifle with trained grace, already moving. The ice wouldn't hold still for long. Neither could she. Extraction. Vector Theta Blue. 6 clicks north. Old mining tunnel. She had 3 minutes before the skiff's gunner triangulated. As she moved, her comm whispered to life. A single voice, female, unshaken. Ashvale, confirm kill? She tapped her glove. Confirmed. Fires lit. A pause, then a slow intake of breath. Understood. Operation Echo Infernum is a go. Wake the fleet. The air inside the Dominion war room was thick with the sour heat of alarm pheromones. Walls pulsed with bioorganic nerve light as crimson tactical overlays bathed the spire-shaped conference chamber. Dozens of armored Zarek commanders argued. Across the room in hissing clicks, mandibles rattling, weapons twitching. Every display pointed to Outpost Nix Fee, a frozen world considered strategically irrelevant until precisely 7 minutes ago. Commander Relna Var stood apart from the fray, arms clasped behind her back, twin irises focused on the forensic playback of the sniper kill. Unlike her kin, her carapace armor was muted gray rather than blood-etched obsidian, signifying her role as intelligence, not military glory hound. Her eyes flicked over data overlays as the shot was triangulated again and again. Single projectile. No warning, no heat bloom, precision beyond Zarek standards. Her claws tapped the glassy surface of her analysis pad. Railgun signature? Match, 87.1%. Similarity to Project Ashwood Requiem prototypes, Terran origin. Impossible, muttered General Olshak beside her. The humans are extinct. Relna didn't flinch, then explained the weapon. 26. Years ago, she had sat in a dusty academy chamber on Zarin Prime, immersed in a forbidden fascination, Terran guerrilla warfare doctrine. Her instructors had laughed when she cited human stealth records. Untraceable shots. Whole convoys vanished. Entire regimes toppled without open war. You waste your time, hatchling. One lecturer scoffed. They died in fire, cowards hiding, behind tricks. But Relna knew. They didn't die in fire. They became it. Now, watching Thirval's death frame by frame, his mandibles still open in mid-command as the slug pierced his throat, Relna's certainty deepened. The sniper wasn't just skilled. She was trained, human-trained. Relna stood before the gathered command circle, her voice sharp but composed. We must consider the possibility this wasn't an isolated insurgent act. We're seeing indicators of a coordinated Terran reawakening. She was cut off by Lord Marshal Karzan, his voice a thunderous buzz. Even if one rat survived, there is no fleet. They are ashes scattered in the Oort. We will retaliate, make a public purge of the surrounding sectors. Symbolic, overwhelming, swift. Relna's fingers curled into fists. Symbolism does not counter precision. You are declaring war on ghosts, and hoping fire will scare them. But humans do not fear fire. They carry it. Karzan turned away. The order was signed anyway. 1,000 Dominion ships moved toward Sector Theta Rim to make an example. Relna watched them go and whispered to herself, "You still don't understand. You never studied silence." Nixa V. 30 minutes after the assassination, Ashvale knelt beside a half-buried satellite transceiver, cold wind ripping at her cloak. Her gloved hands danced over the analog controls, bypassing Dominion scramblers. She opened a frequency no longer supposed to exist. Inside her suit, the dog tags clinked softly with each movement. Her thumb brushed the engraving. D-Vale, Ararat Arc, Requiem Unit, 17. The console blinked green. Encryption lock breached. Signal uplink active. Ashvale didn't speak. She just tapped 5 keystrokes. 1 pulse. Transmission sent. Operation Ember Reborn. Phase 2. Initiatin'. The silent edges of the galaxy, in the frozen darkness past starlight and patrol routes, something ancient stirred. Massive ship crypts hidden in the Oort Vale awoke from their slumber. Black-flecked hulls, unseen for generations, flickered to life, their power cores blooming like distant novas. Worn emblems glowed faintly against reinforced armor, a split earth sigil with 7 stars encircling it. The old human warfleet hadn't died. It had waited. Cold, quiet, patient. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of ships began to hum in unison. Relna sat alone in her quarters, scrolling through archived reports no one else dared read. Satellite movements, stolen prototype blueprints, cipher pulses from derelict sectors, individually meaningless. Together, a pattern. She sent one last message to her sister on Zarak Prime. If they come, they will not roar, they will whisper. Stay low. Then she closed her eyes and prepared her own escape protocol. She knew how this would go. Her people would light torches against the dark, thinking fire would protect them. They had forgotten that humans were born in the fire, but trained in silence. Nyx. V. Ashvale's perch. Northern Cliffs Ashvale reached her next position overlooking the ice-locked valley. Dominion reinforcements had arrived. Tanks, patrols, scout drones. They didn't know where the next shot would come from. That was the point. She rested her rifle, adjusted for wind. Her breath was steady. Through her scope, she saw their panic, their uncertainty. They still thought it was just her. They hadn't heard the engines waking in the black. They hadn't heard the cry of fire answering fire. She blinked once, slow. They remembered our fire, she whispered into the cold. But they forgot our silence. It began as a spectacle. A massive crowd of Zarak citizens packed the Forum Plaza, churring in anticipation. Above them, a circular stage floated in anti-grav suspension, lit by ceremonial flame pylons. On it, 3 ragged human prisoners were shackled upright, eyes hollow, skin weathered by solar exposure and Zarak interrogation. The broadcast reached 53 systems. Lord Marshal Karzan stood tall beside the prisoners, delivering a speech soaked in venom. Let this execution remind the galaxy, the Terran species is extinct. Their myths are over. Their silence is submission, not strategy. He raised his ceremonial blade. Just as it descended, the feed glitched. The screen didn't go black. It went white. Grainy black and white footage flickered across every broadcast terminal. Old Terran warships, distorted and majestic, drifting. Past camera drones with hulls scorched and ancient, cut with new schematics, sleek, silent, impossible. Ships with matte black surfaces and segmented exo-armor. Human design had evolved. It had grown teeth in the dark. Then a simple message: we remember. Ember reborn. The footage looped. The crowd screamed. Across the Zarak Dominion, panic blossomed like wildfire across dry plains. They'd killed the prisoners off-screen, but no one was watching anymore. Whispers surged through colonies, outposts, even military barracks. The Ash Fleet has returned. They were always watching. The fire never went out. In a cramped bar orbiting Helix 7, a drunk freighter pilot screamed as the lights cut out and the air chilled. Power died for 12 hours. Not a single shot fired, just cold silence. On Renor X, every oxygen farm ignited on the same night. No casualties. Just famine, breathless nights, and dread. Supply freighters vanished into dark corridors of space. Their wrecks reappeared hours later, floating intact, drained, tagged in ancient Terran glyphs. We could have killed you. Zarak High Command. Internal. Quarantine room. 7 Commander Rel Navar sat under hard interrogation light. Claws folded, wings tight against her back. Surveillance lenses tracked her every breath. You shared subversive materials. Suggested a coordinated Terran resurgence without approval. Hissed interrogator Veska. I suggested you take them seriously. Relna answered calmly. You didn't. The interrogator's eyes pulsed. Then what do you call the strikes? She leaned forward. Warnings. He recoiled. Far above, unseen in any Zarak sensor grid, a human vessel coasted through the void with no emissions, no signature. Its name etched in fading war font, TSV Ember Crown. Inside the command cradle, Fleetmaster Sarah Vex stood still, as a statue, bathed in the dim pulse of low-power mode. Her image, cast through hollow projection across dozens of ships, was unreadable, precise. The kind of calm that came from watching the stars for too long. Operation Phase 3 begins now, she said. Dozens of captains responded with the same words. We bring the Ember forward. Ancient Crater Relay Station, Nyx V's Moon Ash Vale. exhaled slowly, breath condensing in the dim chill of her chamber. Her nest was buried beneath centuries of rock and dust, an old orbital relay long forgotten by the Dominion. Now she used it for line-of-sight coverage across half the planetary hemisphere. She adjusted the dial on her scope. Below, a Zarek war rally was underway, celebrating the failure of Terran resurgence. She smiled faintly. On the balcony stood War Marshal Arkaroon, hero of the Searing campaigns, draped in metals carved from the bones of extinct races. Through her scope, his mouth opened to speak. Ashvale tapped a rhythm on her rifle. 3 beats. The shot traveled 2.7 kilometers. Arkaroon never finished the first word. His carapace bloomed red. He crumpled. The crowd panicked. Some screamed, others ran, others knelt. No one spoke of retaliation. They spoke of myths. They whispered of Ashvale, Zarek Dominion Deep Command, Emergency Council broadcast. How did they bypass our defense? Grid? Barked a general, antennae flicking in disbelief. They didn't bypass it. Rel Navarre's voice returned, now patched into the council via encrypted override. They were never far. The chamber quieted. They hid in your blind spots, behind every moon, inside your scrapyards, in the shadow of your own arrogance. The humans never ran. They waited. Across a dozen systems, Dominion leaders barked contradictory orders. Blockades, sensor sweeps, retaliation, diplomacy. But no one could find the Ash Fleet. No emissions. No trace. Just shadows. Just sabotage. Just fire. Ort Edge. Ash Fleet Enclave. Hidden Dock. Theta Fleet Master. Sarah Vex walked through the silent deck of the Ember Crown, boots echoing. She paused before a display. Dozens of Dominion supply routes. Lit red. Any signs of organized response? A lieutenant shook his head. They're still in denial. Their command structure is fraying. Too many afraid to admit it's us. Sarah's mouth curved ever so slightly. Good. Let the fear ferment. Then her gaze hardened. Phase 4 will not be a whisper. Prepare for fire. Nix V. Ashvale's crater. Nest. The sniper crouched again, her rifle silent but ready. Her voice, almost inaudible, reached across the encoded comms to the fleet above. Target neutralized, morale compromised. The ashes are in their lungs now. Their breath chokes on what they thought was extinction. She looked to the stars, still distant, but now alive with echoes of returning gods. They hunted us through fire. Now we return it. 2:33. Standard Galactic Time. There was no declaration of war. There were no battle horns, no flashing lights, no cries of vengeance, only a whisper of distortion in the cold silence of deep space, followed by the impossible. The sky broke open. 1. By 1, the stars vanished, blotted out by titanic shadows. Dreadnoughts, blacker than void, decloaked above 3 of the Zarek Dominion's core colonies. Not 1. Not 10. Dozens. They moved with eerie precision, hulls shaped like fractured blades adorned with no insignia but the old Terran war glyphs carved into burn-scarred plating. Ember. No sound, no fire, just the heavy silence of judgment. On the surface of Zenthar Prime, a Zarak child looked up from their starlit balcony as one such vessel passed overhead. It made no sound, only a feeling that something ancient had come home, that the night no longer belonged to the Zarek. Zarek High Command. Senate Dome, Core World Vranthal. Why can't we reach the colonies? Why is every orbital sensor down? Panicked voices clawed over each other in the Senate Dome once, the bastion of Zarek dominance. 100 senators screamed across emergency frequencies. They didn't know that everything they broadcast was being devoured. Jamming tech born from scavenged Terran satellites, refitted by engineers who were never given medals, only whispered names. Commander Rel Navarre watched it unfold from her observation cell. Her restraints had been removed, but not out of mercy, just futility. They warned you, she said to no one. You made legends of their fire, and forgot who lit the match. Ashvale's personal quarters, aboard the dreadnought Wraithhold Ashvale, stood in stillness. No trembling, no anticipation, just ritual. Her sniper armor gleamed under sterile light, pieced together from alloys extinct in the open market, coated in adaptive polymer, faded by time, strengthened by silence. She slid on the helmet last, its visor flickering briefly with a crimson pulse. In the corner sat her rifle, one of one, crafted in the void by human hands that no longer trembled under starlight. As she prepared, a memory drifted through her. Flashback. 83 years prior, aboard the Ashwood Requiem, human deep coal dock, the room was dim, lit by emergency filament. Around the table stood the founding women of what would become the Ash Fleet. An ex-fleet admiral with a missing eye, a propulsion engineer who had rerouted a collapsing neutron drive by hand, a deep cover spy who once wore the skins of Zarak, diplomats, mothers, sisters, daughters, survivors. Sarah Vex had been the youngest in the room, still a commander back then. It was never about brute force, she had said. It's about belief, patience, legacy. Let them forget us. We'll build a memory they'll never silence again. Ash Vale had listened from the corner, a child still too small for her rifle, but she never forgot. Command bridge. Ash. Fleet flagship Ember Crown now. Fleetmaster Sarah Vex stood again. Time hadn't softened her. It had sharpened her into something crystalline. The bridge was silent. No cheers, no rallying cry, just the sound of history returning. She activated. A direct channel to the Zarak Senate Dome. The feed was one way. No response required. Her image appeared before them like a phantom out of myth. No rank displayed, just her face, cold and unreadable. Zarak High Command, she said calmly. You have one choice. You will publicly surrender and extradite every war criminal connected to the Treaty of Mol Varen, starting with Lord Marshal Karzan's successors. Or the next transmission will not be from me. It will come from Ash Vale's scope. The feed cut before anyone could reply. Orbital strike nest, lower atmosphere, Zenthar Prime Ash Vale lay prone within her atmospheric drop pod, which hovered inside the upper troposphere, cloaked and cold. Her scope's reticle tracked a flickering heat signature in the Senate Dome. Someone pacing, maybe praying. She spoke over a private channel. Target acquired. Her finger hovered. She didn't press. Yet Zarak Senate Dome. Silence. Fall senators stared at one another. Dozens broke ranks. Some clawed at exit tunnels. Others collapsed where they stood. One voice, familiar and steady, cut through the panic. Rel Navarre, now free, walked calmly into the center of the chamber. You thought they were just fire. But they were never legends, she said. They were women who survived you, who rebuilt, who taught silence to become a sword. Now, they've returned. Command Bridge, Ember Crown Sierra. Vex turned to her operations officer. Status? All jammers active. Dreadnoughts holding pattern. No counter movements. Sierra nodded. Broadcast to the outer colonies. Tell them, the Ash Fleet does not seek conquest. Her eyes glinted under dim light. We are the memory you tried to burn. Final scene, cut across systems. A Zarak mother pulls her child indoors as the sky glows with flickers of black ships. On a prison moon, Terran exiles look up and whisper, they came back. On a derelict listening post, alone. Drone finally receives its first ping in decades. We are home. Ash Vale's drop pod. Final moments. She watched through her scope. The figure in her sights stopped moving. Then the surrender beacon blinked alive. They chose survival. Her finger relaxed. Her voice whispered over the line, floated like smoke. We were never legends. We were just waiting for you to forget we were real. Fade to black. Click. Target acquired.